really going to be super helpful. Because I feel like what can happen is we sometimes swing the pendulum. So we're either like over here not optimizing for anything, which I think is so harmful to your business, and we can talk about that. Or we're over here and we're trying to over optimize everything. And a lot of times most businesses live on like one side of this, big pendulum or the other. And like typically the middle ground, which you guys know I'm always coming back to and always talking about, is where the best results occur. And I feel like we hate that because it takes a lot for our brain to hold that nuance of the middle ground. But honestly, when I look at my own business, when I look at my clients' businesses, when you land in the middle of being willing to optimize the thing that needs optimized and like looking at your numbers and knowing that, and then also not trying to overcorrect constantly, gets so much easier to build a business that's successful, that feels good, and that makes you a lot of money. When you're living on either side of the spectrum is when you're going to struggle the most, honestly. And so we'll get into all the specifics around that. But I think that even if you're like, oh, I'm not someone who over optimizes and you're listening, great. If you're someone who under optimizes, that's still a problem. And most of the same things apply here. So hopefully that helps. Hey, Emma, she said, I'm so ready for this combo. I talked to my coach about over optimizing all the time. Yes. Okay. It's going to be so helpful. I feel like, it's one of those things where I feel like once we get into it, we either really believe solidly one way or another. I know you're such a data person, right? And so it can be so easy once you become a data person to be like, well, data is the way then, right? And we want to like use it at every single turn and we want to like, go for it, optimize, optimize, optimize. But like that can work against us just as much as someone who's like, I'm like, I don't look at numbers. That's not like really a thing for me. I just don't pay attention to that. And it's like, that's fine. You can certainly be like so intuition led. And if you're not also working with your numbers, like that's probably not actually going to support you as a business owner. Anyway, so let's get into it. Yes, it's great and it's awful. Yeah, but we just tend to be like one way is right. And it's like both ways are right? And again, I think it's really hard to do that because our brains struggle to hold two truths at the same time. Like that is like why it's hard. I mean, I could like go into so much around that, but like that's why emotional intelligence is hard, and that's why whatever, because like to hold nuance and two truths and like multiple realities at the same time. And our brains, one, aren't that good at that. And two, they don't like that because it doesn't feel as safe. But when you can get into that middle ground, you actually do end up creating a lot of safety. So the first thing I want to talk about is like what makes sense to optimize and then what doesn't, we'll get into as well. But for me, I feel like if I'm thinking just plainly, like what makes sense to optimize, what always makes sense to optimize is people doing the thing that is most important for them to be doing at that specific step in your process. And so here's what I mean by that. A lot of times we want to, like, our brains want to see them doing everything at every single step of the process. And this is where we get into frustration and over optimization. If you can know what is the one thing that is most important that they do at this particular step, is when you win. And when your business and life get so much easier, and when your priorities get clear, when you make more money, all of that, because you're like, this is the one thing that matters at this moment. The best business owners know how to prioritize the one thing that matters at that moment. So let me give you an example. Uh, Say it's like your email, you're selling something. What a lot of people do is they get so easily frustrated. They're like, oh, this email didn't make me any sales, blah, 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 blah. And I'm usually like, well, what did you ask them to do from that email? Like, what was the most important thing that they did from that email? Go to the sales page. Okay, then stop assuming this email should get you sales. Your sales page is supposed to get you sales. And actually, to a certain extent, not even like your sales page is supposed to get people to go to your checkout page or whatever, right? But we'll get there. But your email is just supposed to get people going to the sales page. And so if you're trying to optimize for like, how can I make sure that this particular email gets me more sales, blah, 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 you're going to be frustrated as fuck because you're trying to get it to check like 3 different boxes at once instead of one box, which is like, does this email get people to go to my sales page if that is the ultimate goal here, right? Or say it's like totally not that. Say it's like a nurture email. It's like, does this email get people to hit reply to me about something or whatever? Like you have to know what your goal is. And sometimes if your goal is sales, for example, or let's say clicks, for example, you may even title it in a way that makes, well, oh my gosh, hold on. I just totally lost my train of thought. Oh, so if so like okay, I'm back with myself. Thank you. So like in a launch, right? You sometimes are gonna get lower open rates at certain points in your launch because you're really optimizing for like who are your warm buyers that are going to be most likely to click from this email and make a move. And so if you were trying to optimize for everything, I want this to be the highest open rates I've ever gotten, and I want responses, and I want them to click, and I want them to buy, you're fucked. Like you are so backed into a corner with that, right? And you can't win from that place because you're trying to over optimize every lever instead of being like, I want them to do one thing here. I'm going to pay attention to that one thing. I'm going to write for that one thing. I'm going to market to that one thing. I'm going to track that one thing and I'm going to optimize that thing only. That's when shit gets so much easier. If you're trying to optimize everything around that, what you often end up doing is completely losing the plot and then having an email that has like, you're getting a ton of responses to, but like nobody's like even getting to your sales page from or whatever. And people get so frustrated with that. And it was like, well, but you started to try to optimize for responses and that wasn't even what you wanted there. So like, yeah, that's what they're doing now because that's what you paid attention to. You know what I mean? Hey Michelle, it's so good to see you. Hey Christina, she said this, literally same mistake on Instagram stories drives me nuts as an IG coach. This story didn't make me sales. The point of that story is to get 1,000 people to your sales page, which it did. Yeah. I feel like there's so many social examples here too, right? Christina, like I even see this with people with like, you know, they're like making a reel that is because they're in a launch and it's like to sell something specific. And then they're mad that that reel didn't go viral or something or didn't get like the most reach. And it's like, well, that's not what we're optimizing for right now, right? Like you're optimizing for whatever it is in that moment. Like maybe it's for comments. So people get like a DM with the link to your sales page or whatever it is. But it's like most things can't check all boxes at the same time. Just like that email is not going to check every box of being your highest open rates, your highest click rates, your most responses, et cetera, et cetera. Same thing with your social. Most of your reels aren't going to be your most engaged and your most reach and your most converting and your most blah, 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 blah. Like it just, they can't always do all the things all at once. So you have to create things with the intention of knowing what the point is. And then you have to track just that point, right? So you're making a reel where you're optimizing for reach or virality. That's all you should be tracking there, in my opinion. Obviously, Christina can chime in, right? But it's like, make the point instead of trying to get something to give you every point, because this is why I think people find all of this stuff so difficult. They're like, I don't even know what kind of emails to write anymore. Like it seems like none of them works. Or like, oh, my reels always fall flat. Like I had someone recently was asking me like, like for a talking head reel, like how do I get my reach way up on that? And I was like, but was that the point of what you were trying to do there? Like, I'm happy to talk about that, but like, what was that for? And she was like, oh, well, I was really talking about, my program and this, and this. And I was like, well, like you were trying to get conversions from that. Who cares if it reaches, 3,000 more people or whatever? Like you were trying to get conversions. And so I think that it's just such an easy loop to spiral on all the time in every element of your business. And if there's one mistake I see business owners make all the time that I think, this is, by the way, I think probably like we'll file this under unpopular opinion. But if there's one mistake I see a lot of business owners make that keeps them stuck, and it's maybe like the number one mistake is trying to make a great business a perfect business. Like people will absolutely burn themselves the fuck out trying to make it all perfect instead of being good with great. I actually read this post recently where someone was talking about like it was someone much older and they were talking about advice they wish they would have given to themselves as a parent. And they said, don't try to make a happy child happier. And I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Cause I find I do that with Bennett sometimes. Like we were just on this family trip and he's like in the pool having so much fun. And I like love that he's having so much fun. So then I'm like, do you want ice cream? Do you want do you want another toy? Do you want like, do you know what I mean? And it's like he's just fucking swimming and having fun. Like I can like let it be. Right. And I think that that's what we do in our business. Like, so we're like, ooh, that reel got me some sales. It should have also gotten more reach because if it got me sales and then it got more reach, then oh my gosh, da, 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 and we're like trying to make a really good thing perfect instead of being like, it did its job. That's good. Now let me go do another one that gets me more reach or whatever. Um, Christina said this exactly. It's optimized for one thing. When you optimize for everything, you're setting yourself up for failure. Yeah, totally. Emma said, oh yes. Right. So I feel like the kid thing is easy to see. Um, because like you can see how like if your kid is like happy and playing with a toy and like enjoying it, like you going and bringing them five more toys, like it's kind of doesn't like help the situation or make any sense. And again, I think that's what we do sometimes in our business. It's like that thing's doing what it needs to do and it's ticking along and you're like, but what if I added four more things in it? Like usually that works against you and not for you. Like in that situation, I don't know about your kid, but like now my kid's overstimulated and can't and like doesn't know which toy to pick and now wants mommy to help him figure those out and whatever. And I just like ruined like a really beautiful situation. And that's what we do in business so much. So instead of being like, ooh, wow, that reel actually got two people to reach out to me and like two high ticket sales. Cool. Let me do more of that. Like that, let me make that right. We're like, oh, if it would have just gone further, then blah, blah, blah. And we make it wrong. We're always finding the thing that's wrong and then trying to fix that instead of finding the thing that's right and going, yeah, let me just like let that be right. Yes. I love that, Christina. She said, I've been saying this to myself lately. There's no perfect, only what works for me right now. Exactly. And when you're trying to create the perfect business, that's when you're over optimizing everything. And it's like a losing game because instead of being like, I'm going to let my great business be great, you're making your great business wrong constantly. And if that's what our industry preys on, right? Is you making it wrong enough that you will buy every single thing and every course and every answer and every solution when you don't even have those problems half the time. You know what I mean? Like it's like me at the pool wanting to go buy like an ice cream and a toy and whatever when like not there wasn't even a thing or a problem or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that's what happens is then we overspend, we overinvest, we create a bunch of fucking problems that aren't even problems to begin with, trying to make a great business perfect. And that looks like over optimizing. That looks like every single thing should check every single box, right? It doesn't work like that. I even think about that in like, let's just talk about this from like a communication perspective. Say it's like a sales page and emails and social and whatever. So it's like all communications, right? If you think about that with your communications with anyone in your life, it also doesn't work like that. I think about me and Sarah, my best friend. Like sometimes I'm sending her like a quick text and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just got, which I did just get this. I'll tell you guys this, but it's a good example. I just got this like amazing lip thing. You need to buy this. Here's the link. Right. And that was like good. That gave us connection in a certain way. It felt light. It felt fun. It felt whatever. And then other times I'm sending her like a 6-minute voice note crying, and that's good in its own way and whatever. But if I wanted every one of our touch points or connection points to be deep, but fun, but light, but easy, but, you know, connective, but also not like expecting too much. And I would be unhappy with our relationship constantly. But if I can see like, hey, me doing it this, like me sending this lip thing today, and then me sending a 6-minute voice note 2 days from now, all build our relationship. And our relationship is built on all of those things together instead of I must do all of those things all at once, all right, all the time. Anyway, the lip thing, as a side note, because it has like been life-changing, especially being on this vacation, is this thing called Wonder Skin, I think is what it's called. If you've seen this on Instagram, I'm targeted endlessly. It's like this paint you paint on your lips and it looks bright blue, and then you let it dry and you peel it off like it's a mask, and it just stays on your lips all day. I like thought it was a gimmick, and then I got targeted enough that I decided to try it, which by the way is a whole lesson on why you have to sell all the time and get it in front of someone, even though they've seen it a million times. Anyway, it works. So that's just a side note. Emma said, so let me ask the first thing you said about the one thing that matters at that moment, because that is what I end up trying to optimize. Like the amount of time I spent trying to make sure I've identified the most important thing is ridiculous. Yeah. So there is always a really obvious next step to me. I say really obvious, like I know, right? But like there should always be a really obvious next step. And if you're thinking about it too hard, it means you're making it more complicated. Like you're missing the obvious thing. It reminds me of that Einstein quote that's like, if you don't know it, if you can't explain it simply, you don't know it well enough. Like you're probably second guessing yourself because it seems too easy or too obvious. And it's always the easy and obvious answer. Like, do you know what I mean? Like in an email, you just want them to get to the sales page. And on the sales page, you just want to get them to check out. And at checkout, you just want them to actually check out. Like it really is kind of that simple. Or like with a social post, like you kind of just either, for me, I either like know what I want at that moment, like whatever, I have waitlist applications open. So I really, really want people getting on my waitlist. So like I'm optimizing for that. Or I'm just figuring out what makes sense for this. Like, oh, I found this like really funny viral reel that I liked, and I'm going to do that trend. And then I'm going to decide what makes sense then. Like, oh, this is definitely not like a conversion thing. I'm just optimizing for reach here or whatever, right? But it should almost always be stupid obvious. um, don't try to think about it past that. Because if you are, you can get into all of that. Well, yes, I do want them to click on the sales page, but I also really want them to be ready. And I also want this. And I also like, as soon as you're going like all of that, but this, but that, but that, it means you've like lost the plot on like what the simple thing is. Um, so I don't know if that helps, Emma, but I think like that would be my takeaway for you is you probably know it and it feels too easy. And you have to let the easy thing be easy. Like, oh yeah, from an email, I just want them to click. Like it's kind of that simple. Um, and that's what I see all the time is like when you tell yourself, but it's not that simple. There's so much more I want that email to convey and do and whatever. You're not trusting the whole system to work together. And that's what you kind of have to trust. It's just like that thing I was saying with Sarah and I's text. Like, it's not like that one text about Wonder Skin is like making our relationship, but I trust the whole system of like how we communicate and how we talk to each other to work together to build that. So in your business, like you have to trust that if you get them to the sales page also works. And if you get them on the sales page, your checkout page is also good. And if you get like, so you kind of have to see the holistic thing where when we zoom in too closely, we're like, this email has to do all this work for me. And it doesn't if the other elements are working. I imagine Christina would say a very similar thing about social too, right? Where it's like, if you do some for conversion and some for reach and some for, like connection, nurture, or whatever, all of those are going to work together to build that ultimate relationship that you're wanting to with your audience. But if you don't see all of those working together and you're just looking at one, of course, it's going to feel frustrating. But when you realize that it's like part of the grander picture, I think it gets easier. That's helpful for me. Remember to trust that when you zoom out, it's all working. Right, exactly. So for example, I had this conversation with a client recently, so this is helpful. Her sales page was converting so well. And so I was like, okay, we like just need more people on the sales page. Like we have to optimize for clicks here. Um, and she was like, yeah, but like maybe the sales page is working so well because I'm saying this in an email. And if I optimize for clicks and I don't, blah, 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 is it gonna, and she was like getting so in the weeds. And I was like, hey, the data is telling us your sales page is working really well. I want you to trust that. Like, I want you to believe that it could be that easy, that this could just be working that well. And like, if you keep sending people there, it's going to continue working. And if it's not, well, like we can figure that out. We can optimize that. But like you have to believe that that's working. And sometimes I think that we're so scared to trust that something is working or that like it works, holistically, that we don't lean in. But like for her, it was like, you just have to trust that's working. So she did. And then of course her launch numbers were better because she like got them to do what she actually needed them to do, which was get to a very successful sales page. Done, easy. If she kept spinning out being like, well, maybe the sales page itself isn't enough because blah, 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 like we would have just been going in circles and we could have never even pinpointed like what did we need to change during the launch. Christina said so true with social. It depends on the goal, and top of funnel reach and nurture looks so different. So the allocation of content needs to match the goal. Totally, right? Like if you're like, I need huge volume, then of course a huge percentage of your content needs to be reached because your goal is huge volume. If you're the opposite, right? Like for me, I never really optimize for huge growth because that's not at all what I need for my business model. It's not because I don't want to or don't like, it's literally just that simple. It's like, what do I need on social? I need people to be connected to me, to my values, to see me as someone that they'd want to fucking talk to every week, that kind of thing. And so like obviously I'm going to mix all of it into my content, but at the end of the day, like in terms of what Christina's saying, like the allocation of the percentage of what you're focused on matters. And I think it's just so true with everything else too. Like you have to know the thing that matters and focus on that. I think in our industry, we just get so lost in the sauce on this because, like, say, let's use me, right? I have a business model where I don't need high volume. If I'm listening to and learning from someone who has a business model that needs high volume and they're talking about that constantly, I'm going to go, oh my God, I don't get, 1,000 new people on my list each month. Like, holy shit, I'm like falling behind and I'm this and I'm that, and I should start running ads and da 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 da. Like, it's just so easy to get in the fray of that. By the way, like this still happens to me sometimes. I would say on average, twice a year, I go to my team and go, I think for funsies, we should just start running ads. And they're like, okay, why? And I'm like, yeah. And then I realized that there's no fucking lie, except that I like to fuck around with stuff sometimes. And then I go, okay, never mind, we're not going to do it. And I go through that cycle probably twice a year because like it's just so easy when you're seeing it. Or like even if I'm working on like something with my clients, I'm like, wow, I see how like much ads are making a difference in their business, like maybe I should give it a try. Then I have to keep coming back to like, what's my goal, what matters to me, does this make sense, why would I spend money on this, what is the even potential return of the money I'm going to spend on this if I don't even have spots right now? Like, you know what I mean? You just have to like go through the what's true for me. But what's so hard in our industry is we're hearing what's true for everyone else so constantly that we lose our own way of like, what matters to me right now? What matters in my business at this moment? You know? So I feel like that's so huge. And honestly, this is why we have coaching too. I literally have a client who is um like so brilliant at all of this. She's such a tremendous business owner and coach. I just was answering a message from her on like what matters to me right now and what am I supposed to be prioritizing again. It's not because she doesn't know it. It's not because like she like doesn't. It's because we need that perspective sometimes when we're so lost in the sauce. Just like sometimes I need my team to be like, why are we doing ads again? And I'm like, yeah. I don't even have an answer for either. So that's a good question. Like it's okay to need that help and to need that support and to need someone like saying to you, hey, like this might not be a thing. So, if you're like talking to your coach about that a lot, that's not wrong. Um, but like it's just where we all have things to work on. It's where we all have discernment to practice of like, can I effectively discern what matters with this thing in this moment? And if I can, great, it should feel pretty clear and pretty simple. And if I can't, I know that's where I have to get support because without that clarity and without that discernment of like what matters at each step, everything is hard. And that's why personalization in business matters so much. That's why I believe in high touch. That's why I believe in one-on-one, because what I would tell someone to optimize here versus what I would tell someone else to optimize here might be in total direct conflict to each other. You know what I mean? Like I have a client right now who the entire goal of what we're doing is to optimize for reach and leads. Right. And I have a client over here who I've been telling her, like, you have to stop worrying about leads. You are absolutely flush with leads. You have to focus on more conversions. So we're like in completely different ends of the spectrum because they have different business models, they have different goals right now, and they have different ways they've set themselves up. And so the idea that there's always one way or one thing or one metric that matters or whatever is just not true. Um, you have to bring that discernment. You have to bring that, like, what matters right now? What do I care about? What do I want? And you have to be able to make that priority. And if the answer is always, well, it's a lot of things. Well, it's four things. Well, you're on the wrong track. Like, it's not, how do I make these four things all happen at once? It's like, how do I actually get clear on which one of them is it? Um, Christina said, this has stopped me from needlessly spending money in my business, hoping for a magical result. I'm strategically focused on the next thing. This is it too. Like, it doesn't just make you more money, it saves you so much fucking money. Because again, just like if I went and just spent like 20 G's on ads, like I'm not recouping that. I don't have a spot. Like I'm just losing that because I got caught up in being like, oh, I should be caring about this. You know what I mean? Um, Hey, Shan, she said, I have a relatively large community on TikTok of 65K people. Go you. I need to optimize on conversions. And this is where I'm getting stuck. Yes. Okay. So this is so helpful because it seems to me I'm like making very broad generalizations and guesses from knowing this much information. So feel free to fill in the gaps for me. But it seems to me like you are great at reach. You're great at reach. You're great at getting people to pay attention and to follow you. That is such an amazing quality. And sometimes we feel more comfortable in one or the other. I see that with clients a lot. Like some of my clients are like, "Ugh," to reach, but they're absolutely exceptional at conversions. And some of them are the opposite way. And so it's just being like, okay, like I might be great at this. What applies from this to conversions? Like you must know how to speak to your people really well. You must know their pain points really well. You must be good at being engaging and connected. Cool. How do we apply those skill sets that you have to conversions? Because obviously what you're doing is working. It's just being like, let me optimize that over in this other area. So I feel like that's really helpful to see there, you know, of like, it's not that like you're good at one thing and not at the other. It's just sometimes we have to like rework our brains. Um, when I first started like really focusing on Instagram a couple of years ago, I practiced the opposite. Like I've always been really good at conversions and I was like, I just want to see if I could be good at reach for a little while. And I feel like I really proved to myself that like when I want to be, I can. Like I know how to do that. I know how to create that when I want to, and ultimately I know that it's not the most important for me, but I think feeling like you can apply your skill set across the board is really helpful too. Christina said, I also have an incredible coach. Oh, yes. You suck at conversions. See, I don't believe you. I'm teasing you shit. But I bet you have like some really specific skills that made it so that you could grow to 65K that would do just as well at conversions. It's just figuring out like what that overlap is, you know, like what made 65,000 people hit follow. I bet you it's the same thing that's going to make a bunch of them hit buy if you can figure out what that connection is. But I do think it's just like scary. And I think sometimes like our fears are what drives it. Like, the people I knew who are really good at conversions and are scared of reach, like usually have fears around like visibility or getting hate or whatever. Or the people who I know are really good at like building communities and building reach are often really scared of seeming salesy or like they're just in it for the money or different things like that. So it might also be worth being like, what are my stories around these things? Because the skill set is transferable. It's just like, what are the stories that are, you know, like feeding what we think we're good or bad at. Hey, Brittany, happy Monday. Okay, so here are like the, first of all, okay, to make this as simple as possible, I think Shan's like illustrating this so beautifully. If you wanted to just be like, what's the simplest way I can look at this? That is how I would start. I would say, do I have a reach or leads problem or do I have a conversion problem? If you just start there, you're going to have more clarity on every piece of focus for you. So if you're like, oh yeah, I have a ton of leads and a ton of people in front of me, but I'm really not making the sales that I should off that. Cool. I have a conversion problem. Like, what if I just put all my attention to conversions? Right. And then you can get into the nuance later of like optimize for this, optimize for that specific thing. But if you're just like, I'm just optimizing for conversions right now in my business, it gets so much easier, or vice versa. Like, I have a client who she like will come to a call and she'll be like, what if I like made my program better or whatever? Right. And I'm like, baby, you just need leads. And then she'll be like, you're right. I just need leads. And then she'll leave the call and then she'll come back and she'll be like, but what if I gave my clients 3 more sessions? And I'm like, what are you talking about? You just need to get more leads. And we did that dance for like, I don't know, 3+ months until she was like, it's literally nothing besides leads. I have to get more leads. It has finally sunken into my head. Thank you. That's what we're doing. And then she like went and fucking got a bunch of leads and like everything got better. So even that as a starting point of like, do you have a leads problem or a conversion problem? That can be so helpful. Then you can get into the optimizing of like the specifics. Like, okay, so what do I want them to do at this step? What do I want them to do at this step? What do I want them to do at this step? And going through all of that. And then here's the other ticket. You kind of have to know, and this is hard because it's changing, you know. You kind of have to know what like an industry standard or a set standard in your business is. So this is another place where I see people really over optimize is they have no idea what their own personal numbers or standards have been or what like the industry numbers or standards have been. And so they're trying to get like, I don't know, like, 50% conversion on a sales page. And it's like, you've never gotten that before. That's so far beyond industry standard. It's insane. Like, why are we trying to get that? And I feel like a lot of people get mad about stuff like that. Like, they feel like, well, why wouldn't I try for like something totally beyond industry standard? And I hear you. I really do. And I'm not saying you can't shoot for greatness, but I am saying there is a point at which you are just fucking shooting yourself in the foot. Okay. When you're trying to get some wild ass conversion rate, instead of being like, what if I just optimize my whole, sales cycle or funnel to be all at industry standard, then you're going to get the results that you want. Right. And then maybe you're even going to go beyond that. But when you're trying so constantly to outdo every number and you think that's going to create better results, you're just working against yourself. I am such like all of my clients will tell you this. I'm so conservative on this because I have seen too many cases where, again, I'll go back to that thing I said earlier, where we broke a great funnel trying to make it perfect. Right? Where a client's like, I know this is going so well, but what if I try this? And I'm like, I just wouldn't because this is like going really well. And they're like, yeah, but I think I could make it go even better. And I'm like, I mean, okay. And then they try to make it go even better and then it stops working as well. And they're like, why isn't this working? And I'm like, can we just do what you were doing? Like, right? I literally have a client going through this right now. She like had a funnel that was working really well. She did a bunch of it, redid a bunch of it. And now she's like, oh, I'm realizing we started together after she had redone a bunch of it. And now as we're like looking at data and looking at stuff, almost everything we're talking about is like, wait, that was what was working so well. Why don't we go back to doing that? Oh, that was what was working really well. Why don't we go back to doing that? Right? Like we can like really get to a point where we're working so hard and all we're doing is dismantling what's working. You know what I mean? Shan said, you nailed it. I have a lot of stories about leaving people behind. If I succeed the way I really want to, I've been working on this limiting beliefs and ready for a shift. Heck yes. Okay. So you are not bad at conversions. You're probably going to be fucking great at conversions. You just have a shift to make there. But like, that's so powerful to see. I love that you shared that. Thank you so much. Hey, Marie Christine, she said was just able to join, but the topic today is so interesting. Thank you. So that is my point. Like, we don't want to break something trying to make it perfect or just not knowing. You know what I mean? It's almost like if you if you have a weight loss goal, you want to know what that goal is and you want to know that it's like healthy and within reason, whatever. You don't want to just be like, whatever, I weigh 150 pounds and for funsies, I want to lose 60. Like, that's like so far beyond normal to the point where it's unhealthy, right? To the point where like you could make yourself sick, you could actually become way less healthy in that endeavor, etc. Instead of, kind of your standard, you're like, oh yeah, this is a healthy weight range for me. Okay, I'd love to fall in there. Da, da, da. Like same with numbers like this. Okay, like a really healthy sales page conversion is within this and this. And I see that we've gotten these in the past. Like, when you can really look at it from that like pretty neutral perspective, it gets so much easier to optimize. When you're trying to optimize for a number that is so, so far beyond standard or is like a total outlier, you're usually working against yourself. I have had plenty of clients get outlier numbers. I had a client recently, I still cannot get over this. I told her, I'm like, I'm gonna be thinking about this for like literally weeks. Um, her sales page click-through rate, so like from sales page click to checkout, was 80%. I have never seen a click-through rate that high. Absolute fucking insanity. I so proud of her. I've thought about this endlessly. But if we had intentionally done that, like if we had been like, let's make this sales page click through rate 80%, I guarantee we wouldn't have hit it. We only hit it because we weren't trying to be like, oh my God, let's get the most outrageous sales page click through rate anyone has ever seen ever. We were like, let's just make this sales page like really fucking good so that they want to click to checkout. And we did. And then it went beyond that. But like typically those outlier numbers don't come because you're trying so hard to be an outlier. Most of the time when you're trying so fucking hard to be an outlier, you're working against yourself. When you're like, I just want to get my sales page to about this percentage. I just want to get my checkout to about this percentage. It's when it gets so much easier. And then when you actually probably do start going beyond that because it's all working so well together. But it's such a waste of time, energy, and effort in business trying to get to a number that you don't even need to get success. Like it's just over optimizing for this, for the ego, for the sake of being like that client that got that 80%, she did not give a shit. Like it was not like an ego stroke for her. She was like, oh, that's cool. That's super fun. Meanwhile, my like data nerd brain is like short circuiting, right? But she's like, oh, that is just like really cool. I'm so happy. Like you think that's great, you know? But if you're trying for those, you're going to make yourself crazy because you're just on a quest for ego and perfectionism and all that. If you're like, I just want a really well operating funnel or whatever, you know, sales system, like you're probably going to end up going slightly beyond it at that point because it's all working so well holistically together. And it's as simple as that. Hey, Alyssa, good to see you. Marie Christine said those crazy goals in all areas are so sexy to set, but also in practice, they're so overwhelming. Yes. Shan said, thank you, nailed it again. That's exactly how I built my community, was literally effortless. Yes, exactly. It's so funny. I have a friend who has like a SaaS company and he gosh, what was it? I think he 8 times their results in a year. And he wrote this thing and sent it to a bunch of us to read recently and shared like how he did that. And it was really cool to read. Um, and he literally picked one thing and focused all of his energy on that one thing. And like, yes, he was trying to 10 times it in a sense of being like, oh, if we were going to, how would I think bigger? You know, kind of like that 10x effort or 10x kind of philosophy that's like really popular right now. But what everyone misses in that is it's doing it to one thing and being okay if you don't hit the 10x. What a lot of people do is they try to do 10x to everything and then expect to hit it in everything too. Right. So what he was saying is basically like he literally picked one thing and focused only on that one thing for a fucking year. Okay. Like that is what this looks like a lot of the time. So like it's like if you were like, okay, I have a conversions issue. What if I promise myself that for the next year, conversions are it for me? I'm going to think about that. I'm going to master that. I'm going to focus on that. I'm going to give my energy to that. Like you might actually 10 times your results. But if you were like, oh, I have to 10 times my results this year, what are all the 10 things that I should optimize that will totally work against you? Right. So I think this is like a really important way to think about it is like, over optimizing almost always means more work and breaking things that are already working. Knowing what you need to work, where and when and why, and being really clear on your discernment for that is all that matters. And being willing to for that to always change too. Like maybe this year you need to work fully on conversions, and then next year you're back to focusing on leads. Like people also get really tripped up thinking that if they pick one thing, it should always be that, or that it shouldn't shift or change. Like it's going to shift. It's going to change. Your discernment around this stuff should shift. Like, this is why we need to practice what matters right now as the question, or what matters for my goal in the next 6 months. Like, can I stay on track and focus for that? If you do, it is so unlikely that you will not at least get very close to hitting it. If you run around trying to optimize everything in every way, thinking that somehow that is like the protective mechanism that is going to ensure your goal, you're going to be overworked, overinvested, and probably further away from your goal, right? Like, it is always going to work against you. So I hope that helps. We want to optimize without over optimizing. And again, that's a tricky middle ground sometimes, and it takes holding a lot of nuance and a lot of discernment. It usually takes having really great support helping you figure out what that is. But I promise you, it's the part of your business when, like, we're talking about like not having to work all the time and not like hustling 24/7, whatever. Like, that's why. Because you're not trying to make a great business perfect. You know what great means to you, and you're optimizing for that. Kind of that simple. So I hope that helps. I hope that gives you like a sigh of relief. I hope it reminds you that like it really can be easier than it probably feels. You do not need a perfect business. A perfect business is going to work against you. And you just need like really, really easy optimization steps. And it's really simple to grow from there. So I love you guys. I'm so grateful to you for being here, for listening to me today. As always, we'll do a giveaway, $100 gift card for being here, for commenting, for hanging with me for all this time. So hope you guys have a beautiful week, and I'll see you all next week. Bye.